Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Before we get into today's video, please do me a small favor. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're just about to hit 41,000 subscribers and be sure to like the video. Let's try and see 500 likes on today's episode. So on this show today, we're going to be talking about Manchester United's attempt to sign a wonderkid from Arsenal. We'll also be talking about Chelsea, who have apparently submitted an official bid for Alejandro Garnacho, and also talking a bit about Marcus Rashford, where there is a bit of a shock twist. Apparently, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to bring him to Besiktas, so we're going to be talking about all of that. But before we do that, I have one question to start the show off. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. How much is Garnacho worth to Chelsea? Okay, we've spoke about him to Napoli. I want to know, if Chelsea bid for Garnacho, how much is the minimum amount of money you would be okay with him leaving to Chelsea? And the reason I ask this is, I think, for me personally, I could kind of come to terms with Garnacho going to Napoli if it was for like £60 million, maybe more, like 60 million minimum to Napoli. Because I think when they're going to a club overseas, it's not as bad. But when you're selling to a direct rival, I think it hurts a lot. And usually people only sell players to direct rivals that they don't really want anymore, Like, you don't sell your best player to Man City, do you? Or to Liverpool or to Chelsea or to Arsenal. Like, that just doesn't happen. If you look at all the players that have moved from like direct rivals at the moment recently, it's like we bought Mason Mount. He's been awful. Kai Havertz went to Arsenal from Chelsea. Like, hasn't really been amazing. It's been okay, not been amazing. Jesus went from Man City to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like they're selling their actual best players. They're kind of selling like squad players for massive amounts of money. So yeah, that's the question I want for you. If Chelsea do genuinely want to buy Garnacho, which apparently they do, how much is the minimum amount of money you'd be okay with him leaving? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. For me personally, to answer this question, I think for Napoli, it would have been a minimum of £60 million, English pounds, so 70 million euros, and then maybe like a sell-on clause. That would have been the deal I'd have been happy with going to Napoli. Maybe like a 20% sell-on clause, something like that. So if he went to Napoli, did really well, and then in 2 years' time he moves to Real Madrid for 100 million, we would have got 20% of that. I would have been okay with that. Because I understand that the situation we're in, which is obviously the fault of Jim Ratcliffe, don't get me wrong, the financial situation we're in is his fault. That it's the Glazers' fault, but obviously Jim Ratcliffe has enabled it. So obviously it's his fault and their fault. But the situation we find ourselves in now is that we have to sell youth players in order to balance the books. And that's because of what the Glazers have done, and because that Jim Ratcliffe enabled the Glazers to stay instead of pulling out of the race and letting Qatar win, and we wouldn't have been in this situation. But anyway, we can't dwell on the past. We all know why we're in this situation. So yeah, for me personally, if he's going to Chelsea, I think it's got to be at least 80 to 100 million to Chelsea. And the reason I say that is all you have to do is go and look at Chelsea's other signings. Okay? Go and have a look at how much money Chelsea have spent on players recently. They bought Moises Caicedo, didn't they, from Brighton. They spent, I think it was 115 million euros on Moises Caicedo, who is a central defensive midfielder. He's not even an attacking player. The same age as Garnacho. And I wouldn't say he's much more of a bigger profile. They've spent ridiculous amounts of money, haven't they? I mean, the only deal that they've already done in the last few years that has been a bargain is probably the Cole Palmer one, which was, I think, like 47 million. But all of the other fees that they've paid recently have been absolutely ridiculous. They've been so inflated. And yeah, it was 116 million euros they paid for Moises Caicedo. They paid 62 million euros for Romeo Lavia. I mean, that's just mad, isn't it? 60 million for Nkunku. But then then they sold, right? This is the biggest example here. They sold Kai Havertz to Arsenal for 75 million euros. I mean, we should be asking for 70, 80, 90 million pounds here for Garnacho to Chelsea. They have the money. They have the ability to spend the money. They have owners who are, whatever you want to call it, I would say stupid enough in the transfer market to pay ridiculous fees. And they're buying from a direct Premier League rival. If we sell him for like 40, 50 million, that's not going to get us anywhere. Especially when we're being quoted like 30 million for Patrick Dorgu, a player that no one had even heard of until about a week ago, who's playing for a relegation fighting side in Serie A. The more that this deal goes on, the less I want it to happen. When it was Napoli, I could understand it. I understood that at that point, Garnacho wasn't really being picked. And I understood that, you know, the pull of going to play for Antonio Conte, obviously McTominay's gone to Napoli and done really well. I understood it, you know, because at that point, Garnacho wasn't really getting picked in the first team. Obviously, he got picked yesterday and he got picked against Arsenal, didn't he? So he is starting to get a bit more game time. But I think at first I could understand why he was considering his options, because he wasn't starting, and you know he had the opportunity to go to a Napoli and probably be in a team that could win the title. So I understood that. But to go to Chelsea, that would hurt. I would not be happy about him going to Chelsea. And the only way that it would somewhat make me happy is if the fee was massive. You know, it has to be like a huge fee. If it's like 40, 50 million, that would honestly be a disgrace to sell to one of your biggest rivals. But anyway, let's bring you the news on this specific story then about Alejandro Garnacho then, shall we? So, and just a reminder as well, we paid, I think it was 65 million euros for Mason Mount. For Mason Mount, who, let's be honest, I don't think ever had the potential that Garnacho does. You know, I know Mason Mount was a good player at one point. Yeah, it was 65 million euros we paid for Mason Mount. Mental, 65 million. But right, let's bring you the news on the Garnacho situation. Obviously, do let me know in the comment section how much you would be happy to part ways with Garnacho for if he was to move to Chelsea. So, where's the story that I wanted to speak about on Garnacho? Okay, so in relation to Garnacho, Fabrizio Romano came out last night talking about him moving to Chelsea. And apparently Manchester United are asking for 60 million. That's what Fabrizio's reported last night. He says that Manchester United insist on a £60 million fee to sell Garnacho. Chelsea are coming with a formal approach. So Chelsea have made a bid. He says Chelsea is set to make a formal approach for Garnacho, more to follow shortly. £60 million is the asking price. I still think that's cheap to sell to a Premier League rival, especially, as I said, we paid Chelsea 65 million euros, which is, I think, about 55 million pounds for Mason Mount. If Mason Mount's worth 55 million pounds, then Garnacho's worth 75, 80 million pounds. I'm sorry. I think it has to be a massive fee. Otherwise, it's just going to look really, really bad for Manchester United. It's going to look absolutely desperate. Whether you like Garnacho or not, he is one of our best attacking players. He is. Do I think he suits the system? I'll be honest, until last week, no. But I think he did really well last night. And I think, as some people have said before, he definitely could grow and learn into this team. And I think last night was a bit of an eye-opener for me. Yes, we were paying Rangers. Yes, it was like Rangers B-side, so I'm not going to get too excited. But Garnacho is one of the only players, apart from Ahmad and maybe Bruno, who has that kind of spark, who can just ignite a game out of nowhere, who gets the crowd off their seat. Now, arguably, I imagine if Garnacho leaves, we will replace him. So, you know, it's not like Garnacho goes and then you're going to be playing Eriksen as a left winger. So that's a fair point. Maybe you sell Garnacho for £60 million and you go and buy another winger for £15 million who can do the same job. I mean, if they did that, fair play. But I think the likelihood is Man United would sell Garnacho for 60 million and then waste the money on two average players. And then we'll be sat here scratching our heads whilst Garnacho is tearing it up at Chelsea alongside Cole Palmer. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what you guys will think about this one. It's a difficult one. How much do you think Garnacho is worth to Chelsea? Let me know. Somebody saying, but Mount was a Champions League winner. Right. What? So just because you win the Champions League, that means that you should be worth X amount of money? That doesn't really make any sense, because if you look at Garnacho, right? So you say, oh, Mason Mount's a Champions League winner. He won the Champions League like 4 years ago, didn't he? Like, I don't know. I get your point, but that's like being like, oh, well, Garnacho won the Copa America last year. He's a Copa America winner. You know, he won the FA Cup last year. Like, I know what your point is. He's a Puskas Award winner. At the age of 20, to have won the Copa America, the FA Cup, Puskas Award, the League Cup, he's won like 5 or 6 trophies at the age of 20. I mean, that's pretty incredible when you think about it. When you look at Harry Maguire as an example, right? At the age of 20, Garnacho's won like 5 or 6 decent trophies. Harry Maguire, I know they play in different positions, but still, Harry Maguire's 31 and he's won like 2 trophies in his whole career. So I think, anyway, we got completely scammed by Mason Mount is the point I'm making. And that if we do sell him to Chelsea, like, it has to be for a big amount of money. Otherwise, it's just embarrassing. You know? Somebody in the chat saying, did Chelsea not want Anthony instead? Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That would be really nice. But anyway, well, I'll keep you updated on this one. Obviously, as I said, Chelsea apparently have now bid for Alejandro Garnacho. We're waiting to find out exactly what the deal is worth. My understanding is that they'll have bid less than what Man United have asked for. I mean, that's obvious. You never put your maximum bid out, do you? You always kind of would go lower. And then, yeah, we'll see. So just to summarise that bit of the show, if he was going to Napoli, I think £60 million is fair. If he's going to a Premier League rival, I think it has to be 70, 80 million minimum, I think. But I'd love to know what you guys think. So get in the comment section now and let me know how much would you be happy with Garnacho leaving Manchester United for if he's joining Chelsea. Right. Okay, let's move on from that, though. And let's move over to Dorgu because we have got some breaking news coming out from Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio is reporting this morning that an agreement has now been reached between Manchester United and Patrick Dorgu, which is great. But obviously they still need to agree a fee with Lecce. He says that Manchester United are set to submit a new offer. The proposal exceeds €30 million. €30 million is £25 million. I mean, this is starting to sound like a lot of money for somebody who's only 20 playing for a relegation fighting side in the Serie A. More than €30 million. So what's that going to be? 35 maybe? €35 million would be about £30 million. I mean, it sounds like a hell of a lot of money to me. He's definitely not worth that. But I don't know. Obviously, yeah. The story, sorry, so there is actually a story coming out right now, actually, saying that Manchester United are set to offer Lecce €32 million, including add-ons for Patrick Dorgu. So that will be £27 million, including add-ons. I think that sounds like too much, to be honest. £27 million. Think of all the recent transfers we've made over the last couple of years. Rasmus Højlund, I think, was maybe a £30-40 million player. We paid, I think it was, £70 million for him. Anthony was probably a £40 million player. We paid £80 million for him. Harry Maguire, I think, was probably a £50 million player. We paid 80. Like, we've been burned in the past before. And it does concern me that we don't seem to learn from our mistakes. I think in the summer, our transfer business was a little bit better. You know, we managed to get a couple of decent players for a decent fee. But at the same time, it does worry me that you're paying nearly £30 million for a player who's, no matter what people say, right? I doubt more than 100 people watching the video today had heard of Patrick Dorgu before a week ago. You might have heard the name, but like, it's not like you're signing Alphonso Davies. It's not like you're signing Theo Hernandez. You're signing a player who is literally at the beginning of their career and is playing for a team at the bottom of the Serie A. You know, like, it is obviously got to be a concern. But like, if you look through all of our recent transfers, we paid, €75 million for Højlund, €70 million for Casemiro, €65 million for Mason Mount, €60 million for Fred. Like, every single one of those deals, we probably paid double what they were worth. And that's now come back to bite us because even someone like Højlund, who's only 20 years of age, he's got no resale value now, realistically. You know, if someone was to buy Højlund off us now, he'd probably be worth, I would say, I mean, it's really hard to kind of put a price on it, but I would say that if someone was to buy Højlund off us now, he's got 2 goals in 17 Premier League matches. I'd say he's probably about a £30 million player. And that's probably being kind. And we paid double that for him. To get 2 goals in 17 Premier League games is pretty poor, let's be honest. And he's not even playing now. He's not even starting. He's done well in the Europa League, to be fair. He's got 5 goals and 1 assist in 7 games. But in the Premier League, he's really, really struggled, hasn't he? But anyway, I am excited about Patrick Dorgu. I think he could be a good player for Manchester United. I'm just worried about the amount of money it will cost. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a little favour, please drop a like on the video now. We've got over 400 people watching live. We're trying to get to 500 likes by the end of the show. And make sure to subscribe as well. I've just dropped a link into the chat. We're about to hit 40,700 subscribers. So go and do that right now if you haven't already. Right. So yeah, Patrick Dorgu to Manchester United looks like it's going to happen. Let's move on to this story about the Arsenal WONDERKID then, shall we? So the guy's name is this. Where's he gone? Here he is. His name is Aidan Heaven. And he's a similar situation to Chido Obi Martin. Now, his contract's expiring at Arsenal, and apparently Manchester United are trying to sign him. He is a defender. He's 18 years of age. And he's kind of the brightest light coming out of the Arsenal Youth Academy, apparently, after Chido Obi Martin. He can play as a centre-back and a left-back, 18 years of age. He's in the England under-19s team already. His contract expires in June, and apparently Manchester United are on the brink of signing him as another player to kind of join the Youth Academy, but also to be part of the future. He was at Old Trafford last night. There was a picture of him there. And the story is this, that Aidan Heaven was in attendance at Old Trafford tonight. He's expected to make a decision on his future very soon, with United hopeful of securing his signature. I mean, this is good to see that we're managing to take the best youth players from other Premier League rivals. Like, that is good, but at the same time, like, we also need players for the now. We need players for Ruben Amorim to build. This guy's only 18. He's probably not going to break through into the first team for a few years, or maybe he never does. Maybe he gets a terrible injury. Maybe he does his ACL. Maybe, like, as exciting as it is to be signing young, exciting youth players like Chido Obi Martin and this other Arsenal player, it's not really going to help us much in the current moment, is it? To be honest, and yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's exciting that we are managing to attract these players again, but at the same time, we need strikers, we need left wing backs, we need midfielders, we need centre backs who can start immediately. We probably need a new goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you run through the list of issues that we have at the moment, a youth player from Arsenal who's never played a minute for the Arsenal first team isn't going to kind of bridge the gap, is it? But it's still positive, I guess. It's still a step forward. What have we got in the chat today? CBK says, do you think we'll bring in a goalkeeper? I don't think so. I think it's unlikely. I think it's very unlikely that we'll get a goalkeeper. I thought Altay Bayindir did quite well last night, to be fair. He was much better on corners than Onana was. His distribution wasn't too bad. I thought he made a couple of decent saves. I think Altay Bayindir has done well, and I think, he's not going to start on the weekend. I'd be stunned if he starts ahead of Onana, but I think Altay Bayindir did okay. So fair play to him, fair play to him for continuing to push. Somebody saying, what about Nipan? Is there any news on him? The thing with Nipan is, I think he's one of those names that we've been linked to for so long that people just expect this deal to happen. But I don't know. I think if Man United wanted Nipan, they would have signed him by now. Apparently, Arsenal are the team who are pushing to sign Nipan. So, yeah, I personally don't think we'll go for Nipan. So there's some breaking news coming out here that Chelsea are set to bid. Sorry, let me read this out. Okay, here we go. This is mad. So this is coming out from a very reliable source this morning. It says that Chelsea are expected to bid today £60.5 million for Alejandro Garnacho, and United are expected to accept the offer. It says that Garnacho has already agreed personal terms with Chelsea. Wow. How does everyone feel about that? 60.5 million for Garnacho. I don't know. Do you know what the horrible thing is, right? And I don't ever really say this about players leaving, but I'm only saying this out of a state of pain. If he goes to Chelsea, I hope he flops. And this is me just being selfish. This isn't anything to do with Garnacho. Let's be clear here. Ineos are pushing Garnacho out of this club. It's not Garnacho wanting to leave. So I'm not pinning this on Garnacho whatsoever. It would just absolutely kill me inside if Garnacho goes to Chelsea and does a Cole Palmer and becomes like one of the best players in the Premier League. It would absolutely kill me. If he goes to Chelsea and flops, then £60.5 million will look like daylight robbery, won't it? But I just don't think he will flop. I think in that Chelsea side, I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think he's exactly what they need. And I think with a little bit of fine tweaking to his game, he could genuinely be one of the best players in the Premier League. I honestly think that. But the only reason that I was kind of okay or open to the fact of him going to Napoli was that he just wasn't being picked by Ruben Amorim when I first made that statement. But now he seems to be being picked. It's a little bit confusing, you know? You look at Alejandro Garnacho's starts under Erik ten Hag. He started every single game and played for 90 minutes. Ruben Amorim comes in, and in the last 15 games, I think he's only started like 2 or 3 matches, and he's not been injured. But now, suddenly, he's starting him. So it's really, really quite weird. It might be because of injuries. It might be because of Mason Mount's not there. It might be because Rashford's not there. I don't know. But it's weird. Just as we're thinking about selling him, Ruben Amorim suddenly wants to start playing him, which doesn't really make sense to me. But yeah, so it looks like he will end up at he will end up at Chelsea. The thing is, right, some fans are going to be like, £60.5 million, that's daylight robbery. He's never worth that. But again, it's like you're paying for its potential, aren't we? And I think that Garnacho could easily be like £100 million player in a few years. If he does what Cole Palmer did. I mean, how much is Cole Palmer worth now? Over 100 million, I'd say. 150, 100 million, I don't know. It's impossible to put a price on it. And at Man City, he was, didn't really play, did he? At all. So there's a video here as well circulating of Garnacho last night as he's walking off the pitch at the end of the game, and he's waving to the Stretford end, and he's on his own walking around. He looks emotional. He looks sad. I think he's gone. It's sad, isn't it? It is sad now that it actually becomes a reality that Chelsea are about to take probably our best young, exciting player that's come through our academy in the last 10 years. I mean, some would say Rashford, but I think he's gone. I think he's gone. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what to say. 60 million. I just think 60 million is a joke, to be honest. I don't think that's very good. And I know people are going to be like, oh, well, you said it was all right for Napoli. I just think it's a completely different situation. Selling to Napoli means going to a non-rival, a team that you're never going to play, a team that... Do you know what I mean? It's not that deep. Like, how many of you think about McTominay? I literally haven't thought about McTominay once since he left Manchester United. Even though he's apparently doing well in Italy, I literally don't think about it whatsoever because it doesn't affect me. Whereas to see Garnacho tearing up for Chelsea every week, it's going to kill me. Like, I'm sure Man City fans, it kills them that Cole Palmer's gone to Chelsea and done amazingly. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. It's making me feel sad, to be fair. I kind of came to terms with it with Napoli. I did, because I just thought, maybe it is best for his career. A move to a different country. He's going to take over that left wing spot. He's going to be the new number one after Kvaratskhelia. Like, it kind of made sense a little bit. But to go to Chelsea, all that's really going on here, right? Let this just sink in for a minute. Chelsea are giving us back the money that we got robbed for Mason Mount. That's all we're getting. We're not getting any more. We literally got robbed by Chelsea for Mason Mount. Fast forward 2 years, not even 2 years, a year and a half, and we're now about to give... Chelsea are going to give us back our money for Mason Mount in exchange for our best youth player. Somebody in the chat saying there'll be a sell-on clause and a buyback clause. I don't think there will, mate. Chelsea aren't going to do a buyback clause. Why would they do that? That wouldn't make any sense. Chelsea are going to buy him and then he's their player. And they'll hope that in a couple of years he'll move to Real Madrid for double the money. That's what Chelsea are looking at. As much as we criticise Chelsea, they are good at buying players and selling them for a profit. And Chelsea will be looking at this situation thinking, we can buy one of the most exciting young players in the Premier League for 60 million. And if his potential happens, Garnacho will be a 120 million pound player in a few years if he lives up to his potential, easily. You can see a Real Madrid coming in for him, a Barcelona coming in for him. Oh, I'm just disappointed. I think he's gone. I think it's done. Man United are clearly going to accept this offer, aren't they? I mean, the report I just read out to you says that they'll accept the offer of 60.5 million. If that's including add-ons as well, that is actually a disgrace. If it was 60.5 plus 20 million in add-ons, maybe, I mean, I still would be disappointed, to be honest, but 60.5 including add-ons. I mean, that's awful. It should be 60.5 million upfront in cash, delivered to Carrington, plus they give us back our money for Mason Mount. Obviously, I'm being unrealistic here, but I don't know. I'm disappointed. I see someone in the chat saying you rate him way too high. I think you're missing the point, my friend. It's not that I'm rating him too high. I'm disappointed that Manchester United find themselves in a position where they're having to sell their best youth player that they've probably developed in the last 10 years to a Premier League rival for a fee that's not reflective on the Premier League's transfer market. That's what I'm upset about. Chelsea spent over 100 million on Moises Caicedo. They spent over 100 million on Enzo Fernandez. They've wasted money, left, right and centre. Chelsea made us pay £55 million for a washed Mason Mount who's absolutely flopped. And now effectively all they're doing is giving us back our money for Mason Mount and taking Garnacho. If you want to look at it in a really simple term, right? We've effectively done a swap deal with Chelsea involving Garnacho for Mason Mount. It's as simple as that. Because remember, we won't have paid off all of the Mason Mount transfer fee. So all that will probably happen here is Chelsea will say, oh, well, we can just take the money off the... Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we still owe Chelsea the money for Mason Mount. So we're not really actually getting anything here. We're just taking money off our debt. It's ridiculous. And apparently he's agreed terms with Chelsea as well. Which, I don't blame him. If you're Garnacho, you've been pushed out of the club by Manchester United, he can go to Chelsea. He'll probably earn double what he's going to earn here. So you can't really blame him, you know? I don't blame him at all. I blame Ineos. I blame the Glazers. I blame these people who are stupid enough to get us in this financial position where we have to sell players to Premier League rivals. That's the worst bit of it. When was the last time Man United... Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you leave. It really, really helps the channel out. We're trying to hit 500 likes by the end of this video. And make sure you subscribe as well. I probably will be live again later today, I imagine, with more on this Garnacho deal. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a great day. And yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.